Hi and welcome to Reddit Confessions. If you've ever packed a suitcase in silence while the house echoed with someone else's laughter. Yeah, this one's for you. The clock didn't tick. Clicked. Loud. Like it knew what I was doing. I'd already wrapped the duct tape around the latch of the front door, so it wouldn't make a sound when I closed it behind me. I tested it earlier, while she was in the shower, humming a song that wasn't meant for me. The bag was packed. Not too full, not too light. Just enough to say, I'm leaving without screaming. You broke me. No dramatic speeches. No handwritten notes. No final look back. Because this wasn't a breakup. It was an escape. 2 hours before, she'd kissed me on the cheek and told me not to wait up. Said she and the girls were flying out early. Taking a break. Nothing crazy. Just spa days and sangria. Spa days, right? She was wearing lipstick named Reckless and a dress I'd never seen before. I asked where it came from. She said it was a group buy. We don't have a group. She does. I watched her suitcase roll out the door. Shiny, confident, innocent. And that's when it clicked in my head, louder than the clock. She never once asked what I'd be doing while she was gone. Not once. I wasn't part of her break. I was the thing she was breaking from. She drove off in the Uber. I closed the blinds. And I began. Not packing. No, that part was fast. What took time, what hurt, was choosing what not to take. I left behind the hand-painted mug she gave me when we first moved in. Best decision ever, it said. I left behind our wedding photo. The one she made me retake 3 times because her smile didn't look genuine enough. I left behind the life that she thought would just keep waiting. She never thought I'd walk away. So I left while she wasn't looking. And here's the part one haven't said out loud yet. She didn't go on a girls' trip. At least not with girls. How do I know? Because the hotel she booked sent the confirmation to our shared email. She forgot I still had access. She booked it for 2. King bed. Rooftop access. Couples spa. Not even a creative lie. But I didn't confront her. Didn't call. Didn't rage. I simply made my plan. Quietly. Precisely. Like someone evacuating a burning building that hasn't caught fire yet. But will. And now here I am. Motel room. Remote in one hand. My life in a duffel bag in the other. And all I can think about is how the house will sound when she returns and realizes that the silence isn't temporary. That I'm not in the other room. That I'm not ever coming back. But that's just the beginning. Because what happened next? Well, even I didn't see it coming. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a second. The motel bed was fine, surprisingly clean, but I just lay there staring at the ceiling fan spinning like it had somewhere important to be. The only thing spinning faster was my mind. My phone was on silent, face down, untouched since I'd walked out, and I was proud of myself for that, weirdly. I hadn't texted her. I hadn't left a single breadcrumb. I had truly vanished from her story, and that gave me a strange sense of peace for a while. But as the sun came up, the silence turned into noise. Questions started screaming in my head. Who was he? How long had this been going on? Was I ever enough for her? Even in the beginning? My thoughts looped, got louder, darker. So I got up, poured motel coffee that tasted like cardboard sadness, and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I opened our joint email again. It was still logged in on my phone. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she didn't care. Either way, there it was, the digital trail of someone who didn't cover their tracks because they assumed the other person was too weak or too trusting to look. That used to be me. I typed her name into the search bar. And that's when the past few months came crashing down in timestamped receipts, e-tickets, confirmations, and Uber logs. Hotel reservations in cities she never told me she visited. Dinner bills for 2 under names that weren't hers. There was even a massage booking under Jensen plus Delaney. Jensen? Who the hell was Jensen? My stomach twisted. I remembered that weekend. She told me she was at a silent meditation retreat. I didn't hear from her for 3 days. And now I know why. But it wasn't just the paper trail. There were photos, cloud backups, and I couldn't stop myself. I clicked, opened, swiped, and that's when I saw her face in one of the pictures. She wasn't smiling at the camera. She was smiling at someone just out of frame. Same smile she used to give me. That slight head tilt, the tiny crease by her right eye, the smile that made me fall in love with her in the first place. And there she was, giving it away to someone else like it cost her nothing. There was another photo, this time he was visible. Beard, mid-40s, leather bracelet. Looked like the kind of guy who probably used words like vibes and energy while misquoting philosophy. My polar opposite. And there she was, practically curled into him, her hand on his chest like it belonged there. I didn't throw the phone. Didn't scream. I just sat there, eyes burning, letting it sink in. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't some clumsy accident. This was deliberate, planned, repeated. And all those nights she came home and said she was tired or needed space, she was already gone. I left the motel around noon. Not because I had somewhere to go, I didn't. But because I couldn't sit still. I drove through back roads with no destination, watching the landscape change like it could erase my memories. Then I stopped at a gas station off Route 19, just for water and a sandwich. But when I came out of the store, a thought hit me so hard I dropped the bottle. She didn't know I was gone yet. She was still living in her own little fantasy, probably texting him from her hotel room, laughing about how she'd handle me when she got back. She didn't know that the apartment was empty, that my side of the closet was bare, that the spare key was gone, that I wasn't waiting to be forgiven. And suddenly I wanted her to know. I wanted her to walk in, full of confidence, and feel that wave of confusion collapse into panic when she realized I wasn't there. That she couldn't control the narrative anymore. That I had flipped the script without telling her. So I drove back to the apartment, not to go back, but to leave something behind. I stopped at a print shop and printed one photo. Her and the other guy, laughing, arms around each other. Nothing graphic, just enough. I wrote 3 words on the back in red Sharpie. You chose him. Then I slipped it into the wedding album. Page 1. Right under the Our Beginning caption. I didn't stay. I didn't linger. I didn't even lock the door. I just walked away again. And this time, I smiled. But here's the kicker, this wasn't the end. Not even close. Because what I found in the next few days changed everything. And it wasn't about her. It was about me. And someone else I never expected to hear from again. The plan was to disappear. No announcements, no revenge plot, no desperate attempt to make her feel what I felt. Just quiet, clean, like a chapter closed in the middle of a sentence. But life rarely respects our plans, especially when we think we've outsmarted pain. Turns out, pain knows how to find you, even in places you've never been before. I checked into another motel a few towns over. One of those highway-side places with sun-faded signage and carpets that tell stories you don't want to hear. But I didn't need luxury. I needed distance. I paid cash, used a fake name, Jared, for no reason other than it sounded like someone braver than me. I turned off my real phone and used a prepaid burner for emergencies. I even left my wedding ring in the vending machine chute of the motel lobby. It sat there like a coin nobody wanted to pick up. And I walked away. That night I tried to write things down. Not for Reddit. Not for some dramatic memoir. Just for me. But when I opened the notebook, nothing came. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I felt emptied. Like she'd scooped me out long ago. And I'd only just noticed how hollow I was walking around. It was around 2 a.m. when my burner phone lit up. No name. Just a number. I stared at it. Who the hell even had this number? I let it ring out. Then again. The third time I answered. Frankie. It was a woman's voice. Familiar. Soft. Hesitant. I blinked, heart racing. Who is this? It's Camilla, she said. Cam. And just like that, a ghost walked back into my life. Camilla, my first real girlfriend. The girl who once told me I was too gentle for this world. And kissed my cheek when I cried during a Pixar movie. We dated in college. Broke up because we wanted different things, or so we told ourselves. Truth is, I was always too afraid to ask her to stay. And she was too wild to wait for me to grow up. I hadn't spoken to her in nearly 15 years. I heard, she said, answering the question I hadn't asked yet. About Delaney. About what she's doing. How? I managed to whisper. You really think you left quietly? She's been spiraling all day, posting cryptic stories, blocking people, unblocking them. Your cousin Tim works with my friend Joe. Word travels fast in small, bitter towns. I laughed, but it came out dry. Of course it does. There was a pause. Then she added, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. I wanted to hang up. Not because of her, but because I wasn't ready to let someone see me in this state, even over the phone. I was barely a shadow of who I used to be, and Camilla had always seen right through me. But then she said something that froze me. She's been seeing him for over a year. I went cold. How do you know that? I went to a party last winter. In the city. It was a holiday thing, corporate crowd. He was there with her. Everyone just assumed they were a couple. They didn't even try to hide it. I swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't know if you knew, she said. And honestly, I didn't want to be the one to hurt you. I sat on the edge of the bed, gripping the phone like it might melt. A year. A full year. While I was working late, organizing our taxes, repainting the bedroom she said was too dull. She was sneaking away to holiday parties and pretending she didn't have a husband. She didn't just cheat, I said, voice low. She built a whole second life. Cam didn't say anything for a long time. Then, what are you going to do now? I stared out the window. It was still dark, but birds were beginning to wake up. I hated that the world kept moving like nothing happened. I don't know, I admitted. I left because I wanted peace, but all I feel is unfinished. Camilla exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. Then maybe it's time you stop running and start reclaiming. There's more to your story than what she took from it. It was a nice thought, but I wasn't sure I believed in reclamation. I wasn't sure I believed in anything anymore. Before she hung up, she gave me her number. If you need somewhere to land, she said, I have a couch. Or a floor, or a coffee pot that works. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I stared at the wall for what felt like hours. Somehow, hearing the truth hurt less than the not knowing. The lie was the real poison, the kind that eats you slowly. But something shifted after that call. I stopped thinking like a victim, and started thinking like someone who deserved answers. I wasn't going back to beg or scream, but I was going to give Delaney one last moment she didn't expect. Because for once, I wanted to be the one holding the mirror. And what she was about to see in it wouldn't be pretty. Delaney came home 2 days later. I know because I watched it happen. Not in person, no, I wasn't ready for that. I watched through the lens of a small motion-activated camera I had forgotten to uninstall from our living room. Ironically, I bought it a year ago when she insisted someone was stealing our Amazon packages. We never caught a thief. But now, the camera caught something else entirely. Reality crashing into her like a silent wrecking ball. It was 4:12 p.m. when she walked through the door, still dressed like someone's fantasy. Her heels clicked across the hardwood with this rhythm I used to know like a heartbeat. She dropped her purse on the kitchen island, opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of rose, and poured it like she owned the world. Then she called out my name. Frankie. Pause. Another sip. Baby. She wandered through the apartment, probably expecting me to come out from the bedroom like a lost puppy, arms open and questions swallowed. Instead, she found closets with hangers swinging empty and drawers that didn't close right because they were half full, half forgotten. I watched her lips form the words, "What the hell?" as she turned in a slow circle in the middle of our bedroom. And then she saw the wedding album. She sat on the bed, opened it, flipped the first page, and froze. I paused the footage, not because I couldn't bear to watch, but because I wanted to remember that exact second, when she realized I wasn't bluffing. When the lie she lived in finally cracked, and she was sitting in the middle of it alone, surrounded by silence she couldn't manipulate. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like I'd opened a door to something worse. Like this wasn't revenge, but revelation. And once you see clearly, you can't unsee. You can't unfeel. And I was starting to feel something new. Curiosity. What was she thinking, right then? What did she believe would happen? Would she call me? Would she chase me? Would she run to him? I didn't have to wait long. The burner phone rang at 4:36 p.m. Blocked number. I answered. Silence. Then, Franklin. Only one person in the world still called me that. I didn't respond. Where are you? She asked, like someone calling out in the dark. Not sure if anyone's listening. Still, I didn't speak. Then came the tears. Or at least the sounds of them. The gasping, dramatic kind that echo in soap operas and phone calls with mothers. Please, she said. I'm scared. I didn't know you were serious. I thought you were just upset. Just upset? That was her version of me finding out she'd been sleeping next to someone else while pretending I was the love of her life? Just upset? But what made me grip the phone tighter was the next part. He doesn't matter. Jensen, he was a mistake. I never meant for it to go this far. I swear. There it was. The rewrite. The revisionist history I knew was coming. She wasn't sorry it happened. She was sorry I found out. She wasn't mourning the end of our marriage. She was panicking because the safety net me had vanished. Still, I said nothing. Then she dropped the bomb. I went to the doctor last month, she whispered. I didn't tell you because I wasn't sure. But I'm late. Like really late. My heart stopped. No idea who the father is, she added quickly, like that made it better. But if it's you, if there's even a chance, can't we just talk, Frankie? Please? I hung up. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream into the air. I just let the silence swallow me again. Pregnant. Possibly. And somehow that still didn't change what needed to happen next. Because the story wasn't done. It was just shifting. She thought I'd come crawling back now. That I'd be too confused, too scared, too desperate to walk away for good. But what she didn't know was that I already had a plan. Not to get revenge. Not to destroy her life. No, I had something more dangerous. I had clarity. And I was going to use it in the most unexpected way possible. I didn't answer her next call. Or the dozen after that. Not because I didn't want to hear her voice. I did. God help me, I did. But I knew exactly how that conversation would go. It would start with panic, slip into denial, twist into apology, and end with manipulation wrapped in tears. I had heard her perform that routine before. Maybe not in this exact context, but I recognized the rhythm. And I wasn't going to play the part she wrote for me. Instead, I drove 3 hours north, through cornfields and forgotten highways, to the only place that ever made me feel like myself. My grandfather's old lake house. He passed away 10 years ago, left it to my mom, who never visits. The place is dusty, creaky, and full of spiderwebs. But it has peace. And that's what I needed more than anything. I spent 2 days there without speaking a word to anyone. No internet. No TV. Just me. The sound of the lake tapping against the dock. And the thoughts I had been running from since I saw her texts with Jensen. I thought about who I used to be, before her. Before I molded myself into someone less boring, because she needed stimulation. Before I started second-guessing every choice I made to avoid upsetting her. Before I became background noise in my own life. Somewhere between the second night and the third morning, I realized something terrifying. I didn't miss her. I missed who I was before I met her. And with that clarity came the most reckless idea I'd had in years. I was going to meet Jensen. Not to fight. Not to threaten. Not even to confront him like some cliché in a breakup movie. I just wanted to see him. I wanted to know who she gave herself to while I was busy fighting to keep a life she was already abandoning. So I found him. It wasn't hard. The email receipts, the hotel confirmation, the tags on social media she forgot to scrub. He was a personal trainer in the city. Self-employed. Ran some men's wellness brand with vague taglines about discipline, desire, and direction. His Instagram was exactly what you'd expect. Shirts half on. Captions full of fake wisdom. But the location tags gave him away. On Wednesday, I sat across the street from the gym where he trained clients. I watched him through the glass, laughing with a young woman doing squats. He was taller than me, better hair, flashier smile. Everything Delaney used to tell me didn't matter. And as I watched him, something in me snapped. Not from jealousy, but from sheer absurdity. This is what she blew up our marriage for? This walking cologne ad with biceps and quotes from Aristotle? I didn't go inside. I didn't confront him. Instead, I took out a plain white envelope and slid a single photo inside, the same one I had left in the wedding album. On the back I wrote, "You can have her. She comes with consequences." Then I walked in, handed it to the front desk assistant, and said, "This is for Jensen, from the husband." I left before she could even blink. Back in the car, I didn't feel like a man reclaiming power. I felt like someone digging out of rubble, slowly, breath by breath. But I wasn't done yet. I had one more message to send, one I knew she would never expect. So that night, I sent Delaney a single text. No lawyers, no drama. Just send me the signed divorce papers within a week. Otherwise, I file first, and everything goes public. I knew her reputation mattered more to her than the marriage ever did. Her brand, her image, her curated version of womanhood on social media. It was all part of her fragile identity. The idea of people seeing the cracks in that facade would terrify her more than losing me ever did. 10 minutes later, she responded, "Please, can we talk in person? Just once?" I turned off the phone. Let her sit with the silence. Let her see what it felt like to reach for something that was no longer there. Because I wasn't hers anymore. Not emotionally. Not legally. Not even in memory. And while she was busy unraveling, I was about to receive a letter that would flip everything upside down again. Something I never saw coming. Something from someone I thought I'd lost forever. It was a gray, wet morning when I found the envelope, tucked under the windshield wiper of my car, sealed with one of those wax stamps people use when they want something to feel important. At first, I thought it was another stunt from Delaney, some desperate poetic attempt to worm her way back in. But the moment I saw the handwriting, I froze. It wasn't hers. I would have recognized her script anywhere. Rounded, girly, too perfect. This was different. Lean, sharp, familiar in a way that twisted my stomach. I sat in the car, engine off, listening to the rain drum gently across the roof as I peeled the letter open. There were 2 sheets inside. One folded carefully, the other stained slightly, as if it had been carried in someone's pocket too long. I opened the clean one first. The signature at the bottom made my throat close. Daniel, my brother. I hadn't heard from him in 4 years. Not since the night he left my wedding reception early, after getting into an argument with Delaney that no one ever explained to me. They never spoke again after that night. At least that's what I thought. The letter began simply, "I debated writing this for months. But after what I heard from Camilla, and what Delaney posted, I realized I can't stay silent anymore." I read every word in that car, the outside world disappearing as his voice echoed through the page. He told me things I hadn't known, things I didn't want to know. That Delaney had messaged him several times after our wedding, asking questions that had nothing to do with family and everything to do with temptation. That she'd flirted, played with boundaries, even suggested they meet for drinks when she was passing through his city. He said he shut it down, blocked her, told me nothing because he was afraid I'd hate him for it, that I'd think he was lying to break us apart. But that wasn't even the worst part. The second sheet, crumpled, worn, was a printed screenshot. An old message. A conversation between Delaney and someone saved in her contacts as DJ. At the top was the timestamp, 4 months into our marriage. Her message read, "You're the one I should have married. Not Frankie. He's safe. You're exciting." Then, I still think about that kiss. I nearly threw up. I knew what DJ stood for. Daniel James. My brother. He never kissed her back. His next message in that screenshot made that clear. "Stop messaging me. You made your choice. I won't be your mistake." I sat there for almost an hour, holding that paper like it was a live wire, each word zapping some piece of who I thought I was. I wasn't just a man with a cheating wife. I was a man who had been chosen second even from the beginning. Not for who I was, but for what I wasn't. I was the placeholder, the backup plan, The dull, safe option she clung to until something better looked back at her. And the irony? The one she truly wanted rejected her, and I was the one who stayed. Couldn't scream. Couldn't cry. I just turned the key in the ignition and drove to the only place I knew I wouldn't be interrupted. The overlook near the lake. It was where Delaney and I had taken one of our first photos together. Leaning over the railing, her arms around me like she couldn't imagine holding anyone else. That memory was dead now. I sat on the hood of my car, letter clutched in my hand, and watched the clouds shift overhead like they were trying to decide whether or not to cry for me. It was in that moment, quiet, cold, soaked in a grief that didn't look like grief, that I made my decision. I wasn't going to respond to Delaney again. Not in texts, not in calls, not through threats or closure letters or dramatic monologues. I was going to give her exactly what she gave me. Absence. No contact. No explanation. No chance for her to rewrite the story. She could sit in the ruins and try to remember what I sounded like when I still loved her. Because I wouldn't be giving her anything else. But I knew she wouldn't stay quiet for long. And I was right, because just 3 days later, she showed up. Uninvited. Unexpected. And she brought something with her that made me rethink everything. Again. I wasn't surprised she found me. Not really. Delaney has always been good at finding things, what she wants, when she wants it. Her manipulation isn't aggressive. It's calculated. Like she waits until your guard is down and then knocks on the door just soft enough to make you question if ignoring her is cruel. I knew it was only a matter of time before she tracked me to the lake house. What I didn't expect was that she wouldn't come alone. It was a Friday morning. Fog clung to the edge of the lake, and I had just sat down with a mug of gas station coffee and the local newspaper. Not because I cared about the news, but because it reminded me of slower mornings of normalcy. Then I heard the sound of tires on gravel. Slow. Hesitant. My stomach tightened. Nobody just happened upon this place. You had to know it was here. The car door opened. I waited. Then footsteps, 2 pairs. One light, one heavier. I stood at the window, careful not to be seen, and when I saw her, I had to grip the windowsill to keep from collapsing. Not because she was here. Not because she looked different. She didn't. In fact, she looked the same as always. Put together, hair curled like she'd done it for a magazine shoot. But it was who was with her that nearly took my breath away. A girl, maybe 10, 11. Skinny, dark hair, pulled into a messy ponytail. Eyes I couldn't look away from because they looked too much like mine. Delaney didn't knock at first. She just stood on the porch, arms crossed, her hand resting gently on the girl's shoulder like a shield. I didn't want to open the door. I didn't want to hear whatever script she had prepared. But I couldn't ignore the child. Something in her posture, the way she glanced up at Delaney like she wasn't quite sure why they were there. It cracked something inside me. So I opened the door. Delaney looked up, but not into my eyes. She looked around me, as if checking to make sure no one else was there to witness whatever play she was about to perform. I didn't say a word. Neither did she. The silence stretched until the little girl tugged gently at her sleeve. "Tell him," she whispered. Delaney nodded slowly, and then met my eyes. For once, she looked tired. Not broken. Not apologetic. Just exhausted. As if the lies had finally started costing her more than she could afford. "This is Harper," she said. "She's mine. And maybe yours." The words floated in the air like smoke from a fire I didn't even know was still burning. I stepped back. "She's 11, Delaney added like that clarified something. "Before you. But I didn't know where he was. I didn't know if he was still alive. Jensen. He disappeared. Left me pregnant. I raised her alone. You didn't know because I didn't want you to." I blinked. "What?" She swallowed hard. "I met you a year after Harper was born. I lied. I told you I never wanted kids. But I had a kid. I just didn't want you to know because I was scared you'd leave." Couldn't breathe. I looked at Harper again. Her eyes flicked up at me, nervous, but still open, like she hadn't yet learned the full depth of her mother's betrayal. Or maybe she had, and she was just better at hiding it than I ever was. "She asked about you," Delaney whispered. I never gave her a name. But when you left, when you disappeared, something changed. She asked to meet you, and I couldn't lie to her anymore. You brought her here, I said slowly. Because you wanted to what? Use her? Guilt me into coming back? Into raising the child you kept secret for a decade? Her eyes filled with tears. Not the dramatic kind. The real kind. No. I brought her because she deserves the truth. And so do you. Harper stepped forward. Her voice was small but clear. Are you mad at me? That broke me. I knelt down to her level, looked her in the eyes and said, No, never. This isn't your fault. None of this is on you. She nodded, but her bottom lip trembled, and she clung to the sleeve of her jacket like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Delaney stepped back. I'll wait in the car. And just like that, she left us standing there together, me, a man who had spent weeks trying to escape, and this child who might very well be the only thing left in my life that mattered. I invited her inside, made her tea. She told me she liked drawing, that she was good at math, that she sometimes heard Delaney crying late at night when she thought she was asleep. I listened, every word, every glance, every tiny detail, and slowly, I started to understand something I hadn't before. My story with Delaney wasn't just about betrayal. It was about inheritance, about what we pass on when we leave things unsaid, about how the truth always finds a way to knock on the door we swore we'd keep closed. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the fireplace, letter from my brother on one side, Harper asleep on the couch under a blanket on the other. And for the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about Delaney. I was thinking about what kind of man I wanted to be now. For me. And maybe for her. But Delaney wasn't done. Because the next day she came back. And what she brought with her was the final truth. The one that neither of us were ready for. She didn't knock this time. Just opened the car door. Stood in the gravel drive like she didn't know how to approach the house anymore. Maybe because she didn't recognize the version of me living inside it. Maybe because, for once, I wasn't the man she could predict. Harper was inside, drawing quietly at the table. I had made pancakes that morning, burnt the first batch, got the second one just right. She said they were better than school pancakes, which I assumed was a high compliment. She never once asked when her mom would be back. She just settled in. Delaney walked up the steps slowly, hands trembling, eyes red-rimmed. She carried a manila envelope clutched to her chest like it was a lifeline. I had a paternity test done, she said. I didn't ask you. I just needed to know. I said nothing, just watched. She handed me the envelope. I opened it slowly, heart in my throat, eyes scanning the line that mattered most. Probability of paternity, 0%. I exhaled, not out of relief, not out of grief, just finality. The weight of a question lifted. She's not yours, Delaney whispered. But I think maybe she still needs you. I looked back at the house. Harper's laugh echoed faintly from the kitchen. She was watching cartoons, singing along badly with some commercial jingle. And I realized something I hadn't been prepared for. Even though she wasn't my daughter, she had already rewritten a piece of my heart. You lied to me for years, I said quietly. You erased a life I might have had. I know. You could have told me the truth when I left. Instead, you showed up here with a child and used her as your redemption. I know, she said again. And I'm sorry. I'll never stop being sorry. I waited, but there was no manipulation this time. No twist. No grand performance. Only truth. I'm getting help, she added. Therapy. I've told Harper everything. About the lies. The cheating. She knows it all. No more secrets. I just wanted to say that. I won't bother you again. She turned to walk back toward the car, but I stopped her. Wait. She looked at me, hopeful, and I simply said, Take care of her. She nodded. I will. Then she left. And this time I knew it was over, not in a cruel way, but in the kind of way that makes space for something better. I didn't go back to the apartment. I didn't chase the version of myself I used to be. I stayed at the lake house, cleaned it, repaired the porch swing, started reading again, started breathing again. I called my brother. I called Camilla. I made peace with people I didn't realize I'd left behind. And Harper? She writes me letters. Silly ones. School stuff. Doodles of ducks wearing sunglasses. She signs every one of them the same way. From your almost kid, Harper. And I write back every time. If you've made it to the end of the story, thank you. Sometimes we lose people not to betrayal, but to the lies we all silently agree to live with. But peace? Peace comes the moment you stop letting someone else tell your story for you. Now it's your turn. Have you ever been in a situation where silence was louder than shouting? Or where walking away was the only way to stay whole? Let us know in the comments. You've been watching Reddit Confessions. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories just like this one. We'll see you in the next confession.